we are going to bring up, the first speaker we're going to bring up is Jerome Faury from Immersive. We're going to talk about being the master of your own money, and we think that's really important. So, so Jerome, thank you.
Cool, thank you. Let's get the clicker.
There's a clicker right there on a microphone.
Cool, thank you. Great to be here. I'm reasonably new to the XRP community. I've been in fintech and payments for about 25 years, and I've been in Web3 payments since about 2016, 17. But it was about 6 months ago that Scott from Futureverse introduced me to Crypto Eddie, and I had the pleasure of talking on one of her shows. And then eventually she asked me to come here and talk, and I met Fabio and Ali. And what I'd like to start off with is just a round of applause for the organizers here. I think they've done an exceptional job. You know, this event has been, in the works for 6+ months. They've exceptionally executed against it. I think there's a great range of people and inspiring individuals. I loved John's speech before. I'm not really into politics that much, but yeah, really enjoyed listening to him and all the other speakers. And I think we're really lucky and privileged to be here today. I'm the founder, CEO of Immersive. We are the world's first Web3 MasterCard. What I wanted to do is to bring the best of Web3 and Web2 together. So the thing that's kind of cool about Web2, and the reason we partnered with MasterCard, is the existing rails where you can essentially spend your value, your money, your assets at 70 million places around the world. You also get consumer protection. If you go to Nikes.com instead of Nike.com, you can do a chargeback and reverse that transaction and get your money back. What I like about Web3 is the values, and I think these days, as I get older, it starts with values. It's around self-sovereignty, it's around decentralization. 62 people in the world control half of the world's wealth. Data is the new oil. It's the world's most valuable asset. If you can democratize and distribute the data, then you can distribute the value. And I think that's a good thing, particularly as big tech controls 80% of this data. And some of the stuff Futureverse is doing around the AI is super interesting. I want and I expect to have my own bot man or bot girl at some point in the future. And I don't want that to be a cloud-based system going to big tech that looks at my bank accounts, my health records, everything about me. That needs to be decentralized, and it needs to be something that I am the master of. And so that's why we went out and set up Immersive. Very simply, we enable you to transact in a trustless way at over 70 million places around the world. This slide I had to do myself, so it's not quite as pretty as the other ones. And the reason for it is we only signed this contract the other week. I've been really inspired by Scott and Dirk and Aaron talking about Zahao and Zaman and adding additional utility to the XRP ledger. We're proud to say that we've got a version of our protocol, and this is thanks to Crypto Eddie as well. She tweeted about me joining Wave of Innovation, and Vitse, who runs XRP Labs, responded, and we ended up doing this deal, which we inked last week. So we've got a version of our protocol. So we have a multi-chain protocol that enables every individual or entity to have a bank account on the blockchain. We settle with MasterCard using cryptocurrency. We're the first in the world to do that. That means no fiat. It also means no bank. And what this means is that you can now have your bank account on chain, and you can spend your digital assets, that could be XRP or any kind of digital asset that pairs with USDC, simply by tapping your phone using Google Pay or Apple Pay at one of these 70 million places around the world. So Vitse and his team have a version of our protocol running on Zahao, and we're in the process now of integrating Zaman, and I'll show you a video a little bit lately about how you'll be able to transact in a trustless way, no exchange, no bank. Even if our servers, if something happens to our company, your funds are always safe. And so that's something that we're pretty proud to announce today. The other thing I meant to say during the announcement is when the organizers asked me to join, it was on the weekend. I look after my kids on the weekend. So, and next month, I'm pretty much away all month. We're launching across the world. We're doing Europe, UK, UAE, USA, Singapore, Hong Kong. So I travel a lot. And so I've got these two little mates down here, the little blondies, my children who are joining for the first time. Yeah, so thanks, boys. You've been great. We got up at 5 a.m. on Thursday, and we got invited to the dinner here with John on the Thursday night, which started at 8 p.m. Gold Coast time, but for us it was 11 p.m. So they started their dinner at 11 p.m. and we're reasonably well behaved. So yeah, pretty happy with that. This is some stuff that actually are presented on sort of 2018-19. We talk about email and information being transferred easily, efficiently, digitally, not worrying about SMTP or whatever the protocol is underneath it. And value and capital is going to be the same. Why can't I send value without having to pay a whole lot of money with instructing a third party to instruct another third party to put money into my account? So all these things, will transfer at the same speed of information. And I also suggested that we're going to see more innovation in payments. This is, again, 2018. In the next 10 years than what we've seen in the last 1,000. And this is what sort of the history of money kind of looks like. And if you want to look into the future, a good way to do that is to look into the past. And particularly if you're a Yuval Harari fan and Homo Deus and Sapiens, you get a really good look into the future. So initially, value was transferred in a decentralized way. Someone had chickens and eggs, and other people had meat, and some people grew vegetables, and we sort of transacted in a peer-to-peer way in a sort of decentralized community. Then things became centralized using shells and coins and gold. And what we ended up seeing is through the centralization, power and greed, particularly entities like the Roman army, right? So when they would conquer new lands, the first thing that they would do is they would impose their currency on those new lands. And the reason they would do that is so they could impose their taxes on that new land. And so currency has always been something that's been used by, I guess, the super powerful and wealthy, particularly nations, for control and power. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're seeing now around that, particularly around the US dollar. Typically, global currencies have about a 94-year average tenure. So the US has been there since about 1944, so it's got a little bit sort of longer to go. And then before that, you had the pound, Spanish, the Dutch, maybe one more. I'll remember it later. What's that? Portuguese, about 100 years each, right? And so things are going to change. One thing that's really interesting is the Visa story. And the reason I think it's interesting is Visa launched in the 50s as Bank of America. Now, back in those days, banks in the US could only operate in one state. And they essentially did this airdrop. So the people of Fresno, 60,000 people in Fresno, received a letter with credit, essentially. And they got these Bank of America cards, and then it sort of scaled and grew exponentially. They then franchised the system. So banks in Canada, Barclay, actually in the UK, they started issuing Bank of America, but it never scaled. And there's this guy that unfortunately has recently passed away, a guy by the name of D. Hock, but he's known to be the founder of Visa. And somehow or another in the 70s, he convinced the Bank of America board that in order for this card to realize its potential, they could no longer own it. They need to essentially open source, decentralize the Bank of America program. And they set up Visa as this kind of new brand network. And instead of Bank of America own it, it was a member-based organization where each party had decentralized governance and voting. The more value you provided to the network, the more value and voting power that you had within it. So really interesting. And Dee's actually been doing, prior to passing, a whole bunch of stuff in Web3, and he was working with Tim Berners-Lee around digital identity and this type of thing. So I think the Visa story is a really interesting one. I find it particularly interesting because what we're trying to do at Immersive is marry this 1970s technology. So the 70s technology that Visa uses is called Base 1 and Base 2, Bank of America System Experiment. And this technology still processes about 90% of transactions today. It's a card number, it's a transaction ID, and it's an expiry date, and it goes through the network. Every Visa sort of Mastercard transaction, they all go to 2 data centers, give or take, in the US. They come around in a few seconds, but they're very similar to a fax or a plain old telephone line in the 80s. And we're going to see a whole bunch of things start to change. What we're trying to marry on our end is things like zero knowledge proofs, elliptic curves, HD wallets, Web3 authentication, obviously different blockchains and smart contracts and protocols with what we're running. And so trying to marry these two things to do real-time payments on this new kind of nascent technology is extremely complex. What we're also trying to do is to bridge this highly regulated world payments, probably next after healthcare, with this not yet regulated world, which is Web3, and then overlay that with these beautiful user experiences. And I think we're getting to a point where we're actually going to be able to deliver on this. And then what we're going to see is a whole bunch of additional innovation and value start to become possible. I'm going to ask a question, a bit risky, but we'll see how we go. So most people here will be familiar with AML and CTF and KYC and the pain that is. To save $1 of nefarious activity, how much do you think we in Australia and New Zealand spend on AML, CTF to save $1 of nefarious activity? Who can give me some guesses? Precisely. $100 is what we spend. So the banks, the fintechs that operate in this space spend far too much on compliance. And the price of that is innovation and value for consumers, because now the risk of doing something is too great. So these banks aren't innovating, but we know who is. Big tech is innovating. And we're the ones that are missing out because it comes through in higher prices, because Apple, actually they tax the banks. They tax them about 13 basis points on every transaction when you use Apple Pay. 97% of transactions in Australia are contactless, and I think about 90% of those are Apple. So as much as Spotify is getting taxed and everyone else in the App Store is getting Apple tax, so are the banks. And that's not a good thing for us. With these new networks, with the Root network, I know they're doing a whole bunch of stuff around compliance. We're going to be able to start codifying compliance into the network itself. Only two parties that have been KYC'd can transact with each other if it's over $10,000, and only if the asset itself has come from a clean source of funds. And so once you can codify compliance in networks, you can have more efficiency. Once you can have this efficiency, you can have more innovation, and that's going to empower a whole bunch of really cool use cases that are going to benefit everyone in this room. Programmable money. This is something I'm particularly excited about. Money that knows where it is, where it's been, and where it's allowed to go. I would like to be in a position where when I pass, I can leave money for good. And I want to leave a whole bunch of money, not with a whole bunch of lawyers and trust accounts and that type of thing. I want to program my money so that it can only be used for good. It can only be used to help the homeless people, children in need, maybe animals, this type of thing. So smart money is going to be possible when we have central bank digital currencies or even private digital currencies, codified compliance. You better codify rules into the money itself. And then the open metaverse, similar to what Aaron was talking about before. When I first got into payments, it was the late 90s, and we integrated payment terminals with point of sale systems using these things called ActiveX controls. So if there's any people around remember this type of thing, but stop manual keying of information. People then said that they didn't want that, they didn't want transactions to go over the internet. I then got into e-commerce, and people were like, who's going to use, and this is about 2001, by the way, who's going to buy stuff online? It's not safe, it's not secure. I'm going to go into a retail store, and okay. In 2003, I was in Australia with Coca-Cola, and actually Brisbane City Council with the parking machines. And we're connecting parking machines and Coke vending machines to payment networks. And at that point, again, same thing, who's going to pay with credit card? A month ago, I caught up with the old CIO for Coca-Cola, and now they're turning off cash because everything is being paid with credit card. In 2006, I helped set up Apple with their payment system, and we were doing payments on iPods because the iPhone wasn't out yet. They were setting up the store in Sydney, and everyone's like, why do you need a browser on your phone? People used to make jokes. Oh, sorry, the phone came out a little bit later, but they used to make jokes of me when I had my phone because of the internet, because apparently you need to change the battery. Nokia, you could change the battery, but you couldn't in the iPhone, and the call quality wasn't as good, right? And so everyone laughed about that. As clear as day, I can see that the future of commerce is going to be in the metaverse. The physical and digital is going to collide and overlap. My kids are going to go to virtual malls with their mates. They're going to have these Reeboks that have been generated via AI. They're going to go to different events, concerts. They're going to buy things in there. They're going to show up pretty much near instantly on our doorstep afterwards. My car, when I park it, it's going to have delegated authority. It's going to have a wallet in the car. It's going to know that the parking machine is there. I'm just going to park the car, walk away. the two devices going to transact with each other. There's a whole bunch of really cool things that are going to happen when money that's created on the internet to work natively on the internet is able to do so. So this is what I think. I think the future of payments very much is all API powered. I think it's going to be on open payments infrastructure, whether it's open banking, whether it's decentralized technology such as blockchains. It's all going to be very open, and that's going to enable a whole bunch of innovation. We're going to have these bridges, these seamless bridges between Web 2 and Web 3. Some call it Web 2.5, but users won't know the difference. I'm talking to regulators around the world, and they're starting to ask banks in their particular jurisdictions, why are the banks not offering the ability to act as custodians for consumers' digital assets and currency? You see Circle, we've got quite a good partnership with Circle in Singapore doing a deal with Grab. Grab's the Uber equivalent over there. They have this SDK for programmable wallets. You basically have this embedded programmable wallet, this Web3 capability in a Web 2 app. Banks are going to start storing digital currencies, digital assets in their banks using similar SDKs, and users will not know the difference, and they'll be able to participate in DeFi and these new economies and these new experiences. And I think the sort of holy trinity for payments is around digital identity, digital currency, and digital payments. And all of these things right now are all occurring at a rate that's unprecedented. So for a payments nerd like me that's been in the game for about 25 years, it's a really cool time. And I think for those of you that are part of the XRP community, which is predominantly a payments sort of fintech open infrastructure platform, there's not a better place to participate and be involved. Back to the Web3 payments. Again, I think it comes back to values. I think most of the reason why a lot of us got into this was because we believed in decentralization. We believe that we should be the master of our money, that we should be able to have our own bank account on chain, that we don't want to see 62 people control all of the world's wealth or 6 companies doing the same. We want to be able to have privacy and transparency at the same time, and we want to enable things like this codified compliance so that we can get a whole bunch of cost out of the system so we can go to better things, whether it's helping the homeless or children or whatever the case may be. We shouldn't be spending $100 to save one. Just a little bit about our platform. This is a very high level kind of thing, but essentially we have a multi-chain protocol that runs on different blockchains. So it runs on Polygon, Ethereum, and we're currently working with the Root network and Zahao to enable it to work for XRP users. We have different assets. So we look at the blockchains a bit like operating systems, Android, Mac, Windows. Within those operating systems, you've got the application layer, like Outlook, and we're a plugin like Zoom or PDF, right? So we have these APIs that do a whole bunch of things, KYC, KYT, create a card, add it to Apple Pay, Google Pay, tokenize it, webhooks, all that kind of stuff. And then we work with wallets. So we work with the Pera wallet, we're working with the Zamin, Zoom wallet, Coinbase, Trust wallet, so that you can transact directly from that wallet everywhere MasterCard's accepted. We also have APIs to support custodial or centralized payment experiences. Why would we do that? There's a whole lot of exchanges that can't get bank accounts. The banks have probably a little bit too much power and not enough investment in innovation and enabling others to do stuff. And so with our technology, you don't need a bank account. A crypto exchange can use a smart contract to have funds to deposit digital currency. They can then create their own MasterCard for their users to have as an off-ramp. So we don't have these issues where you're putting more than $10,000 into your CBA account and it takes days to do it and phone calls and all the rest of it. And then we have this principal membership to MasterCard, which is the same status as the largest banks in the world. So we settle directly with MasterCard. We can sponsor other companies into the network. We basically, have this tier 1 connection into the network. Recently, Born Ready Ventures, I think, announced yesterday an investment into Bank of the Future. This guy, Ash Shilkin, is actually a Brisbane local, has a really amazing track record in fintech and payments. He was a founder of a company called Change Financial, which is listed over here. They're one of the original MasterCard partners. They've had a lot of success to date. But he also wanted to do something that aligned with the values of Web3 that was more innovative. And so he set up this entity called Bank of the Future. And it's basically, you can be your own bank. So tokenized real world assets on the Root network with one click. You've got a UI that for most people would be, like any other sort of SaaS platform or internet banking platform. You don't need to worry about, seed phrases and all the complexity that comes with blockchain and crypto. They use this new technology called account abstraction. So it's very much a Web2 ease of use, but with the benefits of Web3, where you own the assets, you own the currency, and you do one click for purchasing tokenized property, US treasuries. Obviously, you've got the off-ramp with an immersive powered MasterCard on the side. Really cool thing. So they're building on Root Network. They're about to launch. Definitely, and sign up when the time's right. I think they've got a wait list as well. This is a video that actually MasterCard put together for us that shows the user experience for Immersive when you're doing e-commerce transaction from a Web3 wallet using the browser extension. So for us, dApps are typically a web portal or app, a mobile app, or a web extension. A lot of people use web extensions, I guess, with Web3 wallet. So this is what a Web3 wallet web extension e-commerce transaction looks like.
Breaking news, in a world first, holders of a popular Web3 wallet will now have the ability to spend directly using their cryptocurrency. An innovation that's coming to us from a new Immersive and MasterCard partnership to create the world's first decentralized card. Let's take a closer look.
Become the master of your money with the world's first decentralized card, powered by Immersive. A new way to pay directly from your Web3 wallet, anywhere MasterCard is accepted. Start spending USDC IRL within minutes. In other words, simply connect your Web3 wallet and start transacting. So, let's say I want to buy these kicks with crypto. Nice. All I do is go here, click, and copy. It's that simple. Be immersed in your transactions. Trace your payments from chain to merchant. And if anything doesn't add up, we've got your back. Become the master of your money with the world's first decentralized card, powered by Immersive.
Cool. All right. Well, the subs are pretty interesting up here. Good base. That's me. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here, and I'll be up on the panel shortly. Thank you.